in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take!
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Brian Daboll has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Daboll to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get Neighbors, and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
This would have been a bet that I would have lost big on in terms of betting on Trevor Lawrence thus far. Because, Vinny, I thought he was an absolute rock-solid, can't-miss first overall pick.
They're underachieving a bit. I mean, I don't think this is the best adjustment team with Doug Peterson. He's not the best adjuster. If everything's kind of falling into place and everyone's executing well and he can just do what they want to do.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
Good morning. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. It is Monday night. Monday Night Football is approaching very quickly. By the way, there are 2 games tonight. Are you ready for these games? I don't know. We just had a full weekend of college and pro football, and they're throwing 2 games at us tonight. We'll preview those. Vinnie Iyer will be with us from Sporting News. We'll dive into the latest news, notes, and information. Pat Evans from Legal Sports Report, and, of course, a whole lot more and a lot to discuss as we've got a full slate of NFL games to review. My analysis of the whole thing, let's be honest, the early games, 1 o'clock games, not so great. The late games made up for that, the 4 o'clock Eastern game, and then, of course, last night's game, which we will begin with tonight. The Kansas City Chiefs and, of course, the Atlanta Falcons battling it out right till the final buzzer. A little bit of a controversy at the end of the game, but in the end, the Chiefs win on the road, and they do cover that 3-point spread, 22-17 the final. Atlanta went up early in this game. Chiefs came back. It seemed to be a back-and-forth affair, but there was a play in the back of the end zone, a pass thrown to Kyle Pitts from Kirk Cousins. No flag on the play. The Chiefs escape again, and yes, folks, they just keep on winning. But are they playing well? I guess that's a fair question. Patrick Mahomes answered that last night.
We haven't played good. I mean, really all 3 games. We've been able to win. I mean, that speaks to the character of the team, the grit, how we've been in these situations before. But I'll speak especially offensively, and myself, I feel like I haven't played very well. And that's not a stats thing. I just feel like I'm missing opportunities whenever they're out there and not throwing the ball in the exact spot I want it to be at. So it's about me getting back to my fundamentals, putting our guys in the right position, and then we got to execute at a higher level offensively. If teams are going to make us drive the field, we have to prove that we're able to do that, and I'm sure we'll get a lot of the same this next week with the Chargers.
Yeah, and a big game coming up with the Chargers. The question will be for Los Angeles this week, and Jim Harbaugh, put his best foot forward, but was it the best foot for the Chargers this past week? Because, of course, Justin Herbert left that game with a key injury in that one. It was a high ankle sprain. Meanwhile, Kirk Cousins, beat up a little bit in this game, but did lead the team back almost to a victory, talked about coming up short.
Disappointing night tonight. You feel like you snatched defeat from the jaws of victory is kind of how it felt a little bit, if I'm saying that right. It was a great atmosphere tonight. Our fan base was phenomenal. It was a great environment, and it was great to start fast. was really proud of the way our defense held up in the second half and kept getting us the ball back, giving us opportunities. And, there's just plenty I can point to that wasn't good enough to win this game tonight. But still felt like it was right there for us to win. And when you don't do it, it leaves you with a pretty sickening feeling. So that's life in this league.
Yeah, and I would say right now the Atlanta Falcons probably a little bit disappointing to start their season. They thought they'd get off to a little bit of a better start, but at least they did fight the Chiefs toe-to-toe. Meanwhile, the Minnesota Vikings have no complaints whatsoever. Their defense was dominant yesterday as they crushed the Texans 34-7. The big story for Minnesota this season has been the play of their defense and their quarterback, Sam Darnold, who threw not one, not two, not three, but 4 touchdown passes yesterday, including one to Jordan Jefferson at the start of the game. The Vikings have the best record right now in the NFC. The Houston Texans will need to pick up the pieces a little bit, figure out what went wrong for them. They have not played great also, by the way, Houston, I would say, through the first 3 games. The most insane finish of NFL Sunday definitely goes to the Rams and 49ers. 49ers were up big in this game. In fact, they were up 14 points at the half, led throughout the game, but all of a sudden the 49ers defense could not pick up what Matthew Stafford and the offense were doing. Throwing deep balls, going down the field. 49ers couldn't stop them. They come all the way back, kick a field goal late, 27-24, an outright upset win as 6-point underdogs. Also, the Dallas Cowboys, again, up against it, against the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens go up big. And for the second straight week, they take their foot completely off the pedal. Dallas comes all the way back, a 28-25 final, as Derrick Henry went nuts in this game. Dallas has to figure out what they are doing on defense. Can't stop the run at all. And meanwhile, the Philadelphia Eagles win a thriller in a low-scoring affair, 15-12. Final drive in New Orleans as Jalen Hurts and company come through. The Eagles get the win. The Saints suffer their first loss of the season. The Indianapolis Colts, they got a win yesterday. It also didn't come easy against the Chicago Bears. It was a pretty sloppy game for both quarterbacks. Caleb Williams, his numbers were great in terms of passing yards, but threw a couple of interceptions. Williams also fumbled. 21-16, the final there. Indianapolis ends up winning. How about the undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers with Justin Fields at quarterback? Again, Justin Herbert left this game late, and Taylor Heineke came in and couldn't really do anything. 20-10 the final. We'll see if this ankle sprain for Herbert lingers into next week. Harbaugh had said that he could go to Heineke and even Easton Stick in this game. He just went to Heineke, and he had no luck whatsoever. Watt was in his face constantly. Meanwhile, the upset of the weekend, without a doubt, well, maybe Carolina was too. I got to keep that in consideration. But probably Denver going to Tampa Bay and winning. No one expected that. 26-7 is the final. So finally, Sean Payton is on the board with a win. Bo Nix is on the board with a win. 26-7. Kind of shocking, but that's what the NFL has been through the first couple of weeks. And also Malik Willis starts again, maybe for the final time for the Green Bay Packers, and they go to Nashville and just destroy the Tennessee Titans 30-14. Apparently Will Levis is still the starting quarterback for the Titans. Okay, fair enough. Meanwhile, the AP poll, let's take a look at this, in college football remains the same. And Boise State, by the way, is back in the top 25 for the first time in 4 years. Texas, number 1. Georgia, number 2, Ohio State, number 3, and Alabama, number 4. And yes, 2 plays 4 coming up this Saturday. The Tennessee Volunteers had no problem whatsoever. Their defense has been dominant throughout the college football season. Dominated again in Norman, Oklahoma, 25-15 the final. Look out for the Vols this season. They're playing great football under Josh Heupel and pick up, yes, an SEC victory on the road in Oklahoma. USC loses their first Big Ten game in Ann Arbor to Michigan, 27-24. Came right down to the final play of the game. Colorado squeaks out a win against Baylor, 38-31 in overtime. Shedeur Sanders threw a Hail Mary in that one for the win. In Texas, in Arch Manning's first start, 51-3. Walkover win for the University of Texas. 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions in that one. Little bit of a surprise as we enter the home stretch for Major League Baseball. The postseason will be determined. Huge series coming up between the Mets and Braves this week. If the Mets win 2 out of 3, they qualify for the 2024 postseason. The Reds were eliminated from postseason contention and also fired their manager yesterday. They just extended him at the end of last season. David Bell is out as Reds manager. 409 and 456 was his record, but the reason, again, why this was surprising, he just signed a long-term extension. The Twins are now 2 games back of a playoff spot, or they lose 2 of 3 to the Red Sox this weekend, are now 1 game back of a playoff spot. The Red-Hot Tigers continue to win. They take 2 of 3 in Baltimore. They hold the 3rd wild card spot, currently tied with the Kansas City Royals. And as I mentioned, the Atlanta Braves, they're trying to hang in there. They beat the Marlins yesterday, but this series against the Mets coming up this week is going to determine who gets that wild card spot in the National League. In the WNBA, the playoffs are now currently underway. Let me give you what happened yesterday in the league. The Connecticut Sun blow out the Indiana Fever 93-69. Caitlin Clark was 4 of 17 from the field. The Sun, 6.5-point favorites. They cover fairly easily. The New York Liberty, they take out the Atlanta Dream 83-69. They cover the 13.5-point spread by a half a point. New York is one of the favorites to win the WNBA championship. They are up 1-0 in the series, and they play Tuesday night. The Las Vegas Aces beat the Storm 98-67, so another cover there. And how about this high-scoring affair? 102-95, the Minnesota Lynx beat the Phoenix Mercury. The total went over by approximately 40 points in that one. Tons of WNBA playoff games coming up this week, including tomorrow night. We'll take a quick time out here on NewsWire. We return. Vinnie Iyer joins us to recap and go over the National Football League.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
Crew has already clinched the National League Central. They're 2 games behind LA, that being the Dodgers, trying to maybe get the 2nd seed in the National League standings for October.
Both of these teams have a chance to score some runs against these pitching matchups, so maybe another over, even though we do have a playoff atmosphere. And yes, Milwaukee did clinch, but there's still an eye on the prize of we might be able to chase down the Dodgers and also the Phillies to get one of those buys.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Brian Dable has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Dable to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get neighbors, and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
This would have been a bet that I would have lost big on in terms of betting on Trevor Lawrence thus far. Because, Vinny, I thought he was an absolute rock-solid, can't-miss first overall pick.
They're underachieving a bit. I mean, I don't think this is the best adjustment team with Doug Peterson. He's not the best adjuster. If everything's kind of falling into place and everyone's executing well and he can just do what they want to do.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. It's time to recap Sunday Night Football, take a look at what happened in the National Football League throughout the day, and, of course, preview tonight's games with an S. 2 games tonight. Vinnie Iyer joins us, courtesy of Sporting News. Vinny, how would you, analyze the weekend? I'll give you my take, and then you can kind of take it from there. I thought for the first time in 3 weeks, the early games were a bore. I didn't. There were really, for me, it wasn't a lot to like. Low-scoring games. A couple of games were close. The rest were blowouts. I thought as the day went on, things got better, and it culminated with that final play last night.
Yeah, and all these 0-2 teams got off the mat. We saw the Giants and Broncos and Panthers, and then we saw the Ravens, of course, the best of the 0-2 teams, come through against the Cowboys. So a lot of desperation kicks in at this time of year. It didn't do so for the Titans. They were not very good. But you saw the Colts also rebound. So a lot of that 0-2 correction is there, that these teams are not as bad. Those teams that are doing well are not as good. So we're kind of seeing a bit of regression to the mean that will continue as we build the sample size. I'm looking forward to that, where we have a better idea of these teams going forward. It's hard to read them right now with a lot of emotions and all that going on. So a little steady here in the middle of the season. So that's why it's been a lot of tricky stuff out there for bettors early.
Yeah, I would agree. And again, the underdogs winning outright, that has been a theme of the season. So let's take a look at the game last night. There was, for the second straight week, Kansas City with some controversy on a play that ended up getting them a victory. And again, I don't want to be too critical here because, 2 weeks ago, it definitely seemed like there was a pass interference call against Cincinnati, and Harrison Butker kicked the field goal and won. So, I'm not really willing to take questions on that one. Like, it was plain as could be. But how about last night, Vinny? Did you think that was a clean play?
Yeah, I mean, that was bang, bang, but then you saw the exact next drive. You saw a lot of calls go against the Chiefs that helped the Falcons get in position there late in the game. They just did not execute there and were out on the field on downs for 2 straight drives. Now, what's confusing to me is a lot of coaches are psyching themselves out. You needed a couple field goals to win the game. You didn't have any faith in your defense. You needed to stop Patrick Mahomes once. The Falcons probably walk out of there as winners if they take the field goal in the first one. After that call didn't come through, you tried to force it in there. Say, okay, we're still going to get in the end zone. So it really throws off a lot of things, right? When there's some teams that just say, okay, we need the field goal, like the Rams. Like, okay, we need this field goal to keep the game close, and we're going to do that. And then you have the Falcons maybe being too aggressive twice in the red zone. And hey, they could walk out of there as winners if they just had a little bit more confidence in their defense and not be so intimidated by Patrick Mahomes. So it's weird how these teams kind of fold because Mahomes is on the other side and makes some really bad decisions that you just needed a couple field goals to win the game, and they didn't look at it that way.
Yeah, and I think right now that if it comes down to the end in any game and it's one play that basically decides it, Vinny, you have to sort of hold your own self accountable, I think, because
right.
I mean, for the Atlanta Falcons, I mean, you go up on the Chiefs. If you're going to stop fighting against the Chiefs and stop pushing and let things happen like it did to Kirk Cousins right before the half, there was a mistake. I mean, you have to understand what the outcome is going to be. All right, so the wacky world of the National Football League heads to Buffalo tonight. And look, this is, again, one of those games. We went into this last Monday night, Vinny, where it's like it was easy as day. You know exactly, this team's going to win, and then the opposite team wins. So is that what we're in store for tonight with the Bills taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars? Jags need a win super bad, plus 210 on the money line. We know the Bills are going to be 5.5 point favorites going into this game. But in any other year, Vinny, I would tell you this. Buffalo is a 7-point favorite in this game. The odds makers cannot make these lines too high. I mean, people are taking dogs.
Yeah, what's going on here is the Jaguars have a good history. We know Josh Hines Allen, as he's now known, has had a game against the other Josh Allen. That was the big upset a few years ago, where the Jaguars had no chance as double-digit underdogs. They won a low-scoring game where neither team got to the 10-point mark. So it can always happen. The Jaguars seem to have a good read on what the Bills do. They went out there in London as well against them. So there is that. They're also the 0-2 desperate team. We saw, again, the Titans rolled over, but all the other 0-2 teams started to wake up a little bit yesterday. So it could be tough for Buffalo, but when you look on this matchup on paper, I don't think it's very good for the Jaguars. The way that Trevor Lawrence is playing, the way the Bills can run the ball now, and a lot of secondary issues for the Jaguars. So I don't know. The Bills seem to be just putting it all together pretty well and taking care of business. So I think they might do it again here on Monday night and just keep rolling. I just don't think the Jaguars are a very good team, and not that team that was more competitive against the Bills as we've seen in recent meetings.
Yeah, and I think that's really the story here, and the other part of the story is that 0-2 teams generally don't make the playoffs. 2 out of 32, Vinny, over the last several years since 2020 have made the playoffs. Only since 2000, only one team has started 0-3 and made the playoffs. That's the 2018 Houston Texans. All right, so the next game tonight is the Cincinnati Bengals against the Washington Commanders. Cincinnati is favored by 7.5 points going into tonight's game. Vinny, I'm a sneaky, Washington backer here. I like what I've seen from the Commanders thus far. People are looking at last week. They kicked 6 field goals. Well, I mean, that shows you they got to the red zone 6 different times in that game. I think, Vinny, the Bengals may win this game, but I like Washington. I think Washington's got a shot to make the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I do too. They just have to let Jaden Daniels cook a little bit. Let him throw downfield, open it up. He's got a big arm. We know what kind of a runner he is, but let him unlock all his weapons, and they've got a lot of weapons, short, deep, whatever. They do have weapons to go after this. So this is a good test for the Commanders. I think the Bengals are going to have some trouble closing out the Commanders in this game. They have very good passing offense, and they'll get it revved up here with Joe Burrow, and the secondary of Commanders is not very good. But I do see the Commanders lingering in this game because I don't think the Bengals can close them out. And they have enough firepower here. I think you'll see Cliff Kingsbury open it up a little bit here for his quarterback in game 3 because clearly the red zone stuff, they got to get it going. And I do like Jaden Daniels to keep it close. It's going to be a fun one, I think, tonight with Joe Burrow, 2 Heisman winners from LSU.
Yeah, do look forward to that one. All right, Vinny, thanks again for coming on. We'll see you later in the week.
Hey, thank you.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was clicking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
Crew has already clinched the National League Central. They're 2 games behind LA, that being the Dodgers, trying to maybe get the 2nd seed in the National League standings for October.
Both of these teams have a chance to score some runs against these pitching matchups, so maybe another over, even though we do have a playoff atmosphere. And yes, Milwaukee did clinch, but there's still an eye on the prize of we might be able to chase down the Dodgers and also the Phillies to get one of those buys.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Brian Dable has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Dable to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get neighbors, and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
This would have been a bet that I would have lost big on in terms of betting on Trevor Lawrence thus far. Because, Vinny, I thought he was an absolute rock-solid, can't-miss first overall pick.
They're underachieving a bit. I mean, I don't think this is the best adjustment team with Doug Peterson. He's not the best adjuster. If everything's kind of falling into place and everyone's executing well and he can just do what they want to do.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We're going to dive into some of the comments made by the Las Vegas Raiders head coach yesterday. A little surprising. Also, our social media correspondent, Casey Hudson, weighs in on the Dallas Cowboys. We'll also get into the Eagles and what they accomplished yesterday. It's time now for the SportsGrid Sound Off. All right, as we talked about on the show last week here, could the Saints continue this offensive run where they've been a juggernaut in the NFL? The answer to that was clearly no. The Philadelphia Eagles did a much better job on defense against the Saints as they've done earlier in the season. And that was really the key for victory there. They picked off Derek Carr late in that game, got one really good offensive play and performance. And the story of the game, of course, was Saquon Barkley. Big game again for him. Great ad, by the way, in the offseason by the Philadelphia Eagles. Here's C.J. Gardner-Johnson talking about the mentality they had to go to New Orleans and win.
Man, the confidence comes from ourselves. We got to believe in ourselves. Everybody say, oh, we coming in against the number one team and all this. Man, listen, at the end of the day, it's football. It's only week 2. How you the best offense and best team if it's only been 2 weeks played? You still got, 17, 16 weeks to go? So at the end of the day, we had to just tune out the noise, understand who we were, and just go out there and play equal ball, and that's what happened.
Did you have to play through some pain today?
Man, listen, I'm beat up, but that don't stop nothing, bro. That don't stop nothing. It don't stop the dog mentality, the coaching style. It don't stop working on the basic fundamentals. It's things we got to clean up, but as a whole, we did exactly what we were supposed to do, come in and dominate the game up front.
And that's what they did. Eagles looked really good defensively. If they could get that offense going, maybe kick some field goals, make some field goals, Eagles maybe should be 3-0, let's be honest. All right, the Raiders should not be 3-0. That was a really disappointing performance against the Carolina Panthers yesterday. The Raiders were almost 5-6 point favorites. I know it crashed down in the end, but so did the Raiders offense. What in the world was that? And their defense could not stop Andy Dalton. Had to be one of the more disappointing Raiders games in a while, which is why you can never trust the Raiders. Just when you think you know who they are, they're not. So naturally, they're going to win next week. That's the way that they play. But Antonio Pierce, the head coach of the Raiders, had some really strong comments about some players who were unnamed, saying they made business decisions in their loss against the Panthers.
You said that you wanted to be a team that controls the line of scrimmage, and on both sides of the line of scrimmage today, it didn't feel like that.
Now we got our ass whooped.
Yeah. Any reason? What's the crux of that? Would you say?
We got our ass whooped. We got to put pads on. I don't know. I mean, got to get on the sled. The same group that's, for the most part, all come back and same technique, same coaches. It's not a different scheme. So obviously we're gonna have to coach it better and be some hard asses on the guys, and guys got to take some rough coaching, because that just didn't see that coming on either side of the ball. We thought we had opportunity to run the ball, and we didn't. We didn't do that at all. Maybe tried, and just all the Buddhas too, But offensively, defensively, we didn't do a good enough job up front. Not good enough.
Coach, I know you're upset with the performance. How would you rate your concern about the team's effort? It seemed like this is one of the first games under your leadership that the team just didn't seem to show up tonight.
No, they didn't. I think as the game went on, I don't think it was a team. I think there was definitely some individuals that made business decisions, and we'll make business decisions going forward as well.
We'll see what that means. Honestly, it's a really strong comment. What does that mean? What does that mean, Coach? Is changes coming this week? I guess we'll find out. All right, we know a lot about the Dallas Cowboys thus far. They can't stop anybody at all on defense. Casey Hudson, our social media correspondent, weighs in on the Cowboys, who have basically not been able to stop the run and not been able to run the ball, and therefore have some questions to answer, including players talking to each other on the sideline.
All right, it was do or die for the Ravens as well as the Cowboys, a big battle that went down on Sunday. But most importantly, while we expected to see fireworks between two teams that desperately needed to get in the W column, the fireworks were not between the Cowboys and the Ravens. The fireworks were on the sidelines for the Dallas Cowboys. That's right, more drama for Dallas as Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb have heated words on the sidelines. A lot of people trying to depict what could they possibly be fighting about on the side. Obviously not the most active day for CeeDee Lamb, massive day statistically for Dak Prescott, but an overall bad day for the Dallas Cowboys. So how is this drama going to impact not only the Dallas Cowboys, but their performance, their ability to make it into the postseason, and maybe what their future odds look like? Are a lot of you guys maybe looking differently at their future odds between their struggles and now the discombobulation within the two most important players on the roster? Let us know you guys' thoughts, and most importantly, maybe let us know what you think went down on the sidelines.
All right, thanks so much, Casey. We'll check back with Casey later in the week. We'll check in with Pat Evans coming up next. A very big vote coming in Missouri in November. Will sports betting become legal there? Pat's up next.
it's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
Crew has already clinched the National League Central. They're 2 games behind LA. That being the Dodgers trying to maybe get the 2nd seed in the National League standings for October.
Both of these teams have a chance to score some runs against these pitching matchups, so maybe another over, even though we do have a playoff atmosphere. And yes, Milwaukee did clinch, but there's still an eye on the prize of we might be able to chase down the Dodgers and also the Phillies to get one of those buys.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Brian Dable has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare-downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Dable to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get neighbors, and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
This would have been a bet that I would have lost big on in terms of betting on Trevor Lawrence thus far. Because, Vinny, I thought he was an absolute rock-solid, can't-miss first overall pick.
They're underachieving a bit. I mean, I don't think this is the best adjustment team with Doug Peterson. He's not the best adjuster. If everything's kind of falling into place and everyone's executing well and he can just do what they want to do.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Each and every day we have a guest contributor from Legal Sports Report. Last couple of years, whoever's been the contributor on our show, we've spent a lot of time talking about the legalization of sports betting going on across the country. It's been a really easy and topical discussion. But 2024 has definitely not been the case. We have not seen a ton of movement for the legalization of sports betting with these remaining states. But there is hope as we bring in Pat Evans from Legal Sports Report that maybe, just maybe, Missouri is the big story for 2024. We're going to find out in early November. Pat, welcome back to the show. Not a surprise that we're seeing these sports betting operators go all in on Missouri because they got no one else to go all in on.
I mean, you're right. You're right. The last couple of years, it was like a waterfall of states legalizing, and it just seemed like a natural thing to have 4 or 5 states coming online, and sports books celebrating and bettors rejoicing and being happy they can finally bet on their favorite teams. This year, it's been quiet, and it's kind of a slide from last year too, because you had a couple, all the low hanging fruit's gone. Now we're going high in the tree. You got Georgia and Minnesota. Those are states we'll see, I don't know, maybe some action next year. Missouri, of course, we've had very close calls legislatively the last couple of years. A really strong bill backed by all the casinos and sports books and sports teams in Missouri that got through the House and then fell short in the Senate because of a senator who wanted to include video lottery terminals. Now we've got this huge ballot initiative led by the sports teams that have, they went out, got a ton of petition signatures, got it on the ballot. We've seen a lawsuit, now an opposition campaign that was funded by Caesars, $4 million to that campaign that's running in opposition of the ballot question. But big news last week is FanDuel and DraftKings poured another $10 million into the campaign that's for the ballot question. And that's, they released their first ad, I think it was a week and a half ago, kind of touting what this tax money can do, because it's, the campaign's called Winning for Missouri Education. There's a huge budget shortage for education in Missouri. And so they're thinking, 10% of sports betting wagers revenue can go to education in Missouri. That's a new study just came out last week that says that's about $100 million over the next 5 years. So nothing to sneeze at for sure for education in Missouri. But together now, DraftKings and FanDuel have contributed $21.5 million to this campaign. So they're very keen on getting this done, as you can imagine. What that means for the other casinos, there's only one skin per casino, which is, a big reason why Caesars is probably opposing this. They don't like that there's two untethered licenses that would likely go to DraftKings and FanDuel, so they're just kind of coming into the market unchecked. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting battle we're going to see in the next month and a half until Election Day, and kind of the ads, maybe a little bit different than the presidential ads you're going to be seeing in Missouri. And the reason I think they're pouring so much money into this is the polls are still kind of split. I mean, you've got 52% in the last two polls for, then you've got 20% undecided. So that 20% is huge. I mean, it is a simple majority that they need. So 50.1%. So if the polls are right, they'll probably be okay. But as we all know, polls can be deceiving. So DraftKings and FanDuel are just spending money to make sure they get enough votes and that they get into Missouri. And again, we'll see a fun little fight here from some sportsbook operators in Missouri.
Yeah, just to follow up on this real quick, did you say the tax rate for Missouri was 10%? I think I caught that. Okay, so that's their number. So a lower number than some of the others, right?
Certainly lower than a lot of other states have come online in recent years. I mean, we've seen Illinois just bump up their rate from 10 to 20%. Of course, New York's got their 51%. So yeah, it is a fairly low tax rate comparatively. So, we'll see what that means ultimately, but yeah, pretty low.
Yeah, no, low as compared to others. And interesting to see FanDuel and DraftKings backing them so much. I think they're aware, wow, this is a good state for us. Low 10% number. Not making any money, though. Don't get it twisted. All right, so let's get to DraftKings here. Another story here about compliance reviews. And my understanding from reading the story, by the way, you could read all about it at LegalSportsReport.com. This is surrounding credit card usage and deposits. Tell us more.
Yeah, so Massachusetts Gaming Commission, of course, is, as we've talked about, whether it's me or Sam or Matt or whoever comes on here from Legal Sports Report, Massachusetts is by far the most active regulator. They have regular meetings. They're very lengthy. They're very in-depth and detailed. And they set a hearing earlier this year to kind of go through some problems that DraftKings had last year. And then a couple other instances happened earlier this year that they said, whoa, we got to postpone this, do a little bit more investigating, and pushed it back. This was last week that this hearing occurred. And it is because DraftKings had a little flaw in their system that they had promised when Massachusetts would go online wouldn't be there. But what happened is through their universal wallet, they allowed some Massachusetts bettors to use credit card funds to place bets, which Massachusetts sports betting law does not allow for credit card funds to be used in sports betting. So that's basically what it was. We're in an investigation. There was no conclusion to the hearing. The Gaming Commission still wants more and more information to kind of determine, what action, if any, is taken against DraftKings. It has fixed the issue as far as the commission can tell. Just a kind of an interesting situation here because, a universal wallet is a universal wallet. A lot of people are excited about that because you can cross your borders and use it. But when there's a flaw in the system like that, and it breaks a regulatory statute, it gets a little iffy for the commissioner. So just we'll see what happens. They questioned a lot of DraftKings employees last week to kind of determine how it happened and what went wrong. But again, no conclusion yet. I'm sure we'll be able to fill you in again soon to kind of figure out what happens there.
Yeah, no, again, I think that all of the credit card deposits are something they're going to be monitored in the future, minimums, maximums, things along those lines. All right, let's head over to Illinois as we close it out, Pat, and discuss some of these, again, compliance rules. The state, as you said, bumping up tax rates, also bumping up their protection for consumers in terms of making sure that the advertising is portrayed in the right way. I guess that's the best way I could put it.
Yeah, to your point, Illinois has been pretty active in their tweaks of their sports betting industry. Of course, the tax rates, they had some interesting in-person registration requirements when they first opened, and now it's all mobile, of course. But yeah, now they're upping their advertising regulations. They really are limiting. They prohibit the use of free and free bet and free of risk wagering, the likes, which we've seen more and more states doing, and the American Gaming Association putting in their code of advertising. So, you're really seeing less and less and less, if any, of those kind of advertisements, offering free whatevers. They also are trying to cut down on anything kind of targeting college age or underage people. So nothing on college campuses or college media. So they said no sportsbook ads and say the campus newspaper, things like that. And yeah, that's something we've seen more and more over the last year. Remember, I think 2 years ago we had the Michigan State, my Spartans partnering with Caesars, and Colorado partnering with PointsBet. And of course, those all kind of fell apart because of pushback in the industry and saying, these are iffy around these underage populations. And so, more and more states just saying, let's get these advertising regulations in place, make sure everything's up and, increasing our responsible gambling awareness and practices versus just kind of free for all.
Fair enough, Pat. Is it true that you've read every single one of those books that are behind you? Every single one?
No. I've read about half of them, and the other half are my wife's. So it's half and half.
All right. So between the two, look how many books have been read by our guest contributors at SportsGrid. It's an incredible number. Pat, great to catch up. We'll talk again later in the week. Thanks again.
Thanks, Craig.
Adam Caplan joins us next.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
Crew has already clinched the National League Central. They're 2 games behind LA, that being the Dodgers, trying to maybe get the 2nd seed in the National League standings for October.
Both of these teams have a chance to score some runs against these pitching matchups, so maybe another over, even though we do have a playoff atmosphere. And yes, Milwaukee did clinch, but there's still an eye on the prize of we might be able to chase down the Dodgers and also the Phillies to get one of those buys.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Brian Dable has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Dable to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get neighbors, and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
This would have been a bet that I would have lost big on in terms of betting on Trevor Lawrence thus far. Because, Vinny, I thought he was an absolute rock-solid can't-miss first overall pick.
They're underachieving a bit. I mean, I don't think this is the best adjustment team with Doug Peterson. He's not the best adjuster. If everything's kind of falling into place and everyone's executing well and he can just do what they want to do.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Our SportsGrid NFL insider, Adam Caplan, is with us to go over some of the ramifications from what we saw, both positive and negative, coming out of Week 3 in the National Football League. Adam, it was, for the first time this season, I said it earlier in the show, the slate from start to finish was not as exciting as it was, I would say, in Weeks 1 and Week 2. Some teams were having a hard time scoring in a lot of these games. That's been a theme in the NFL. more unders than overs again in the NFL. And then naturally the quarterback play is, what we focus on here, and we'll do it here again on the show. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no, I know on Coast to Coast last year at this time, Scott could not believe, and we were shocked at how low the scoring was, but it usually levels out depending on injuries and quarterback play and so forth. But what you're seeing is, and this has been a big talk in the media last couple of weeks, is teams are like, you're not going to beat us deep, so we're going to play a lot of two deep safeties. Mm-hmm. So the tight ends will get involved. You saw with the Eagles yesterday with Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert was the star with 170 yards. There are some weeks that it could be crossing routes, okay, that if you can't get it deep, you got to find another way to move the football. And look, by the way, the Dolphins, I know we're going to talk about, not every deep pass is deep. When Tua, unfortunately, got hurt, but when Tua is healthy, he's not going to throw the ball 50 yards downfield. A lot of crossing routes where you run after the catch. Run after the catch right now is really big in the National Football League.
Yeah, and that's why it was so stunning to see the 49ers get beat deep so many times like they did yesterday at the end of that game. So I'm going to say something here, and you're going to call me crazy, or maybe you'll use it for a future column or something like that, or somewhere on the air. So Will Levis, okay, this is how, to me, the NFL has changed so much. Brian Callahan, by the way, saying they're sticking with Will Levis, and probably so. So he has, if you look at the stats, 4 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, okay? Now, Adam, this is to me where the NFL has changed so significantly, because no difference between a guy like Will Levis and a guy like Brett Favre early on in his career. No difference between Will Levis and a guy like John Elway in the early part of his career. Both guys are in the Hall of Fame. By the way, Favre kept throwing picks for like 5-6 years consecutive, 20 picks, 25 picks. Yeah. But in this day and age, Adam, of scoring and with it being so down in the NFL, you can't have this anymore in the NFL. But 20 years ago, it was like, all right, we'll just keep playing and we'll win close games, lose close games. And that's a dynamic where it's like hard to believe what Callahan is saying here, just like it was hard to believe with Dave Canales last week.
Yeah, but I would say this with Brian Callahan, you could say prior to yesterday, he had put out his frustration. There was no question when he was being interviewed by the media that he was frustrated. You could see his body language on the sidelines with the craziness of some of the picks from Levis. Not good. Now, I was with the Titans 2 days in training camp when they were hosting the Seahawks. From talking to folks there, what they want is consistency. You see Levis, who's, by the way, very gifted. You see highs where he has a great practice, and then turnovers, inconsistency, inaccuracy, by the way. Ball sails on you. You want it here, it goes there, that kind of thing. You can't have that. And they're looking for consistent football play. By the way, Mason Rudolph, who clearly bid out Malik Willis, who's now with the Packers. Malik Willis didn't do the good job that he's doing now with, obviously, Green Bay, but Mason Rudolph had a good training camp, okay? He won the number 2 job. So if this continues, and look, at 0-3, it's next to impossible, historically going back to 1990, to make the playoffs. They just want to play good football. Now, I want to mention one thing here. When you look at the head coach, Brian Callahan, he inherited this quarterback. Rand Carthon, the general manager, did draft Will Levis last year. So obviously he has more of a vested interest. This is a situation to watch going forward if this continues.
Yeah, I think some change probably will come. Now with the Dolphins, I don't know what they're going to do at this point. They can't block anybody at quarterback. We know, look, we assume Tua is going to come back at some point, regardless of what we're saying here. Skylar Thompson, fought last year in that playoff game, but he didn't even have a shot against Seattle here. I mean, I don't know how you can even blame him. They were constantly in his face. Seattle had a great defensive game plan coming in. I guess if you wanted to be critical of something on Seattle's side is how they didn't win 41-3, and it was 24.
Yeah, they should have won more.
Right. Yeah, they should have crushed them. Yeah. But what? I mean, the Dolphins, they'll just keep going to somebody else, I guess. But how's that going to make any difference at this point?
Yeah, now let's start with Skylar Thompson. He's got a ribs injury, okay? He's getting reevaluated today. Depending on the testing we'll go, that'll determine how long he'll be out if he misses time at all. He was in a lot of pain after the game, doesn't sound good. So you saw Tim Boyle. Tim Boyle's been on 6 football teams, okay? Let's call it like it is. He's a number 3 quarterback at best. He struggled, you saw last year when the Jets brought him off the street. They've got Tyler Snoop Huntley. You might remember him from the Ravens. Who's actually, by the way, played some good football in his career. He's more of a movable quarterback, pretty mobile. He just was signed off the Ravens practice squad last week. That's it. They don't have another quarterback in the practice squad. Now, from what I understand, they haven't made any overtures to sign Mike White off of the Bills practice squad. But Mike White, no offense to Skylar Thompson, Mike White's a more talented quarterback. Skylar Thompson's probably a better fit for the West Coast offense, which they run under Mike McDaniel. It's more of a timing-based quarterback. Doesn't have the arm that White has. White's pretty talented, but his problem is he's very inconsistent. They're not in good shape. It's very obvious going forward. They're in a tough way. And you mentioned their offensive line. Chris Greer, their GM, that's one criticism I would agree with. He's yet to build a solid offensive line. There's sort of different parts. Tron Armstead, who's really gifted, has been hurt a lot. That's been a problem. Austin Jackson's a draftee of theirs. Liam Eichenberg's there. Aaron Brewer's a very undersized center, one of the smallest of the National Football League. It's just not good enough, and hence their record.
Yeah, and going to continue, I would assume, although they get Tennessee on Monday night next week, so something's got to give. All right, Sam Darnold's been great for the Vikings. 8 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. The Vikings defense, Adam, has been really good. I think, look, give all the credit to Darnold, but the Vikings have been fantastic on the defensive side of the ball as well.
Yeah, let's get started with the former Dolphins head coach, Brian Flores. Okay, he runs one of the most unorthodox defenses I've ever seen in my life. You never really know what he's going to bring each week. And that's the unpredictability that the offenses face. That's why they're so good. And another thing is they're not even that talented, but they execute really, really, really well. And Sam Darnold, by the way, has got a knee injury. He's got the testing today, but he's played lights out. He's never played this well. Give Kevin O'Connell, the head coach and the play caller, credit. He's a quarterback whisperer right now around the National Football League.
Thanks, Adam, for coming on.
You got it.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
Crew has already clinched the National League Central. They're 2 games behind LA. That being the Dodgers, trying to maybe get the 2nd seed in the National League standings for October.
Both of these teams have a chance to score some runs against these pitching matchups, so maybe another over, even though we do have a playoff atmosphere. And yes, Milwaukee did clinch, but there's still an eye on the prize of we might be able to chase down the Dodgers and also the Phillies to get one of those buys.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Brian Dable has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare-downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Dable to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get Neighbors, and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
This would have been a bet that I would have lost big on in terms of betting on Trevor Lawrence thus far. Because, Vinny, I thought he was an absolute rock-solid, can't-miss first overall pick.
They're underachieving a bit. I mean, I don't think this is the best adjustment team with Doug Peterson. He's not the best adjuster. If everything's kind of falling into place and everyone's executing well and he can just do what they want to do.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Maybe the University of Tennessee is playing so well because they have a great intro. Maybe. That's possible. Would you believe there's a Hall of Famer in hockey that's still playing and he's older than me? Yes, that's true. And all of these Chicago White Sox social media team, got to give them some credit. We're coming down to the wire here. They need a break. They'll get one after this week. Time now for some last licks. All right, let's start off with the University of Tennessee. They, have a great intro. I didn't know this. I guess I think teams are going to copy this as we move forward. Every team has their, special intro. They walk onto the field. They feel really good about themselves. I guess the University of Tennessee used Morgan Wallen, who apparently is a very big country singer that I'm not aware of, and also used this guy in a uniform, Peyton Manning. Remember Peyton Manning played at the University of Tennessee, number 16, to walk onto the field? Manning even in uniform at the University of Oklahoma as he walked onto the field. Now, let me say this. I give UT all the credit in the world for doing this, to fire up their fan base. But I also want to say one thing. Peyton Manning, 4 years, no championships at the University of Tennessee. This is true. Everyone's going to be mad at me for saying it. He leaves. First year he leaves, T. Martin comes in, wins the championship, University of Tennessee. Gators beat Tennessee 4 years in a row while he was there. Just saying. Congrats to Tennessee. Big win for them at Oklahoma. All right. A player in the National Hockey League older than me. This is true. Actually, not in the National Hockey League. I take it back. He's playing in some Russian league of some kind. That picture right there, folks, is of Hall of Famer Jaromir Jagr. At the age of 53 years old, he is still playing in some crazy hockey league or 52, and actually scored a goal. So I gave you a little bit of a tidbit on my age. I am not yet 52 years old, but Jagr is. That is crazy. I mean, to have the stamina and to still play at that level of any kind, I guess he wants to play like Gordie Howe did. Remember that name, Gordie Howe? I think Gordie Howe played into his 60s. For the Hartford Whalers, if I'm not mistaken. They called him Mr. Hockey. He interviewed him once upon a time, too. Jaromir Jagr, congrats to him, still playing hockey at 52 years old. All right, congrats to the Chicago White Sox and the fans. They have made it. Folks, you're almost there. This misery season is almost over. And their social media team has had it. In fact, after another loss, very hard to see there on your screen, by the way, saying, I don't even know what to say, Chicago. Social media team, admin, nothing left to say, posting anything but the final score. It has been an excruciating year for White Sox fans and probably all of the players on the team and everybody else. But the good news is, folks, and Sox fans, it can't get worse. I guarantee you it will not be as bad next year as it was this year for you. It just simply can't be. Now, can I guarantee that you're going to win 60 games next year? No, I probably can't do that. But I would say that when FanDuel and DraftKings release your season win total, I know I'm really good at that. People lean on me for that. It's going to be somewhere in the 50s because that's just it. You just don't see years this bad. But congrats to the admin for your social media. Congrats to everybody. You guys made it through the year. It's tough. Very tough season. All right, that'll do it for our show today. Thanks again to Pat Evans from Legal Sports Report, also Vinnie Iyer from Sporting News, and Adam Caplan, our SportsGrid insider. Also, thanks to our director, Luke, and, of course, our producer of the show, Frank. I'm Craig Mish. Now, we'll be back here tomorrow, but we got a lot of great programming coming up for you tonight. Now, again, for those of you who watch our Pro Football Today shows, getting you ready for Monday Night Football, Scott Farrell, 3 o'clock Eastern, don't forget, we have 2 games tonight. So our in-game live programming is basically on all throughout the late afternoon and throughout the night as we have you covered on these games tonight. The Buffalo Bills are taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Washington Commanders are taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. And we have both games covered for you live. And for those of you who are looking for the odds and latest predictions on all of the games going on, just download the SportsGrid app, take out your phone. There's a QR code right there. Big showdown in college football coming up this Saturday. Alabama takes on Georgia. Bill Bender will be with us from Sporting News. He'll have a full preview of the entire slate coming up later in the week as well. So enjoy the rest of your night here on the Grid, and I'll see you back tomorrow on NewsWire.